What is up, you guys? Today I want to talk to you about how to calculate the return on investment when you're going to buy something. Obviously, you want to do this before you decide to purchase. It's a really good tool to use as you're assessing different opportunities. Now, this is something I used when I first started, and it's very helpful to remember all three factors of the equation. But at this point, I think I haven't run an analysis on my own deal in a long time because short-term rentals are such an experience-based thing, and I've been in the same market for so long. But without further ado, let's get into the ways that you can calculate return on investment. So the first return on investment metric that most people look at when they're calculating for whether or not they should buy something is cash on cash. Now, keep in mind, and I've seen a lot of the big names talk about this recently, like Ryan Pineda and others, that cash on cash is just one part of the deal. You're not gonna get financially free purely from cash on cash. Short-term rentals, maybe you can make it happen with enough, like 6 to 10 good rentals. You can bring the cash on cash in to quit your job. But essentially, cash on cash is just one factor. So when you take the cash you put in, so let's say it's gonna take $50,000 all in between your down payment, your closing costs, and furniture and other little touches you're gonna do on your first starter rental property. If you're bringing in $1,000 a month in cash flow after everything, $12,000 a year, your cash on cash is $12,000 over $50,000, and that's the metric you would use as your return on investment. Now, it's really important to keep in mind the other two factors, and these are what I think are the strongest factors in real estate. They are your principal paydown and your appreciation. Now, principal paydown is essentially just forced savings. You have to pay the mortgage every month anyway. You're going to be paying down a certain amount of principal. I think it's crazy people leave this out in their return on investment calculations. Right now, generally cash on cash is a metric that we look for like 15 to 20%. But what's really cool is, for example, I have a bunch of houses in Philly that I cover the mortgage every month, not much more with my long-term rentals. And I'm actually okay with this because a lot of these houses I put $20,000 to $30,000 down to get started, and the principal paydown per year is about $10,000. So from a principal paydown perspective, my return on investment is anywhere from 33 to 50%, which is totally fine. When I go to sell the property, I'll recoup that. It's a little painful that it's not going into my bank account to use for later, but I will totally be fine with it when it does, when one of these homes do sell and I have that money to play with down the line. And candidly, when I first got started, I didn't know as much of what I was doing as does anybody else. So having that principal pay down and get that money locked up for when I have 5 to 10 years under my belt to make a decision with it is actually kind of cool. And then the same kind of goes with depreciation, which is more of a bonus criteria. I mean, you don't want to really run that into your calculator, but often you will get a couple percentage points return, maybe more if you're lucky. And that adds up over the course of a few years. I mean, even if your appreciation is $25,000 to $50,000 on a home when you go to sell, on top of that principal pay down, after 5 years, you could be walking into $75,000 to $100,000 up, which to me is the beauty of real estate. If you're getting, let's say, just to go back to the same example over and over again, right? One of the houses in Philly, let's say I did have cash on cash return of $12,000 a year. 5 years later, that's $60,000, but now my principal pay down and my appreciation add up to another 75 to 100. The bigger factors were actually the other two and not just the cash on cash. And really, like, cash on cash is super helpful, but I think you can lever up in skills a lot quicker than you can what your cash on cash is going to make a difference in your daily life. It's definitely a couple drops in the bucket as you try to build up and something to aspire to. As you collect them and snowball them, that's great. But I think learning a skill that can pay you a lot more is going to be the quickest way to stack up cash every month. That's going to then allow you to really get those properties that can give you 2, 3, 4,000 in cash flow a month. These are all short-term rentals. You're not going to find that in long-term rentals, unfortunately. But those are the ways to calculate return on investment. You want to take your cash flow divided by the amount of cash you actually use. You want to take the principal pay down per year divided by the amount of cash you put in, and then any appreciation you get when you're looking at the option to sell. So if you keep all of those in mind, there are 3 critical factors on how you can make a good amount of money in real estate if you just spend some time in the market. But the number one thing to do is to get started. So if you're paying attention to anything, it's find a deal that looks like it's going to work for you, double check it twice, just like Santa does his list, and then you'll end up being able to get your teeth into something and start to accumulate 3 different types of return on investment that'll get you deeper into the real estate game.